Okay, hello everyone. Welcome to the Aalto Open Days for School of Business. Today, I'm so sorry. Okay. Today, what we are going to discuss what it's like to study a bachelor's degree in the School of Business here on Aalto. You can send questions to the panelists in the chat, and then in the end of this webinar, we will have a little Q&A section where we will try to answer as many questions as we can. Please, if you have any questions regarding the admission to this program, you can attend the webinar that will be hosted by Admission Services on Friday, or you can also contact them at the admissions@aalto.fi email. So feel free to ask our panelists everything you would like to know. And now we can start. Who are we? I'm Milica. I am the first year master student here on Aalto in architecture, and this is my first year working with the Aalto squad, and I will be your host for today. And now I will ask my panelists to tell you something about themselves. Labiba, you can start.
Hi, my name is Labiba. I'm a second year Econ bachelor's degree student. And something about myself is that I currently have an awful cough. So if I start coughing like crazy in the middle of my answers, I'm so sorry. I'll just pass it over to Natalie and we'll make this work. Yeah.
You can do it. Natalie?
Hi, my name's Natalie. I am half Finnish and half English. I am currently a third year bachelor's student in Aalto in the International Business Program in Mikkeli. And I'm super excited to talk to you guys today because I really love my program. And yeah, I'll hopefully convince a couple of you to apply.
Great. So now we can start with our little discussion about the studies. Aalto is home to unique study paths. So we would like to hear, why did you choose Aalto University as your university to study with?
Labiba, why don't you go?
Okay, yeah, I can start. I chose Aalto because they had the one program that I was sort of eyeing. I was like, okay, there's Econ and it's in Aalto. I'm gonna go to Aalto. Just for background, I was born and raised here, so it was sort of an easy choice of I want to stay in Helsinki and study within the metropolitan area. So I feel like Aalto was a pretty easy choice.
And how about you, Natalie?
Yeah, my story is a slight bit longer. I first moved to Finland 8 years ago because I really wanted to learn the language and learn Finnish. But I had a little bit of issues in that I was very bad at writing in Finnish. So I studied in the IB, and the IB really set off my sort of international business, international sort of study career. I've been studying in English all of my life, and I didn't want to study in Finnish. So I decided that an English program is something that I needed to do. But I wasn't quite sure what I should study, but business sounded really cool, and it sounded like a wide enough area for me to sort of have multiple opportunities in the future to sort of have opportunities to choose something else if I needed to. So Aalto was a safe space, a safe choice for me, because I knew that I could possibly change my mind in the future and study something else if I really wanted to. And Mikkeli was the best place for me to go and do that. So I've been studying international business now for 3 years, and I actually fell in love with business, and now I don't want to do anything else.
Okay then, so what is the best part about your studying at Aalto regarding that you fell in love with the business?
Yeah, well, although I fell in love with business, the reason I love studying here is the people. In Mikkeli, we are a very small community, but even though the community is really small, That means that everybody makes such amazing connections with each other. I know every single person that goes to school in my program by name, and I know a lot about them, and we've really been able to have these stronger and deeper connections and really get to know each other. So the community is actually the best part about studying at Aalto for me. What about you, Labiba?
I'm glad that you asked. I'll just sort of copy and paste Natalie's answer and say it's definitely the people, but in a much different way. Actually, the opposite of what Natalie said, where instead of I know Mikkeli is a very small community and you sort of know everyone, and it's like a really lovely, like, niche family. In Otaniemi, which is where I study, the main campus, I find it fascinating how every day you get to meet a new person from a different discipline, from different fields. It's just seeing and meeting and getting to know all these people from different backgrounds. It's just absolutely fascinating. I mean, I myself have an international background. I did the IB, just like Natalie, actually in the same school. So we have that in common. So I didn't want to let go of that sort of aspect of, branching out and meeting people, not only from different parts of Finland, but different parts of the world. And not only different parts of the world, but also, as you guys know, Aalto has the 3 schools: science, art, and business. So just not only, being able to talk to my econ buddies, but having friends that are in architecture or design or chemical engineering. It's just all crazy interesting to me. So I would say that's the best part.
So maybe we can continue with what made you want to study your field, because you're on your bachelor's and you had that transition from high school to your bachelor studies.
Oh, me?
Yeah, for example, you.
Okay. I think the main reason is actually a very specific one, where in high school I was very active in debate. So I debated a lot, and I noticed that whenever I would be debating, there would be one sort of gap in my knowledge regarding the aspect of economics. I could never sort of grasp the idea of how the economy works and the technicalities of it, and that really frustrated me because I feel like it's something that everyone should know. So obviously when I saw this program being offered by Aalto, I was like, I have to. This is the one thing I've always wanted to know. It's sort of the mysterious black box in my brain. I need to approach it.
Mm-hmm.
And so I did.
Great. Natalie, would you like to add something?
For me, it was a little bit of business wasn't my main goal in life. I remember I actually volunteered at Slush, the world's leading startup event, a couple of years before I started studying at Aalto, and I said to someone that I don't really think that business is for me. I was severely wrong. I just thought I'd give it a chance because I didn't have so many options studying in English in Finland. Also because I was prevented from doing a lot of the entrance exams to the schools. So that's partly why I ended up in Mikkeli as well. But business was something that was neutral enough for me to like the sound of, but not have to make such a big commitment in the future, because now I have the options to go and study finance, management, economics. I can study statistics. There's so many opportunities from the international business, and I think that was one of the main reasons I actually chose to study international business.
Okay, thank you. Really, really beautiful reasons, actually. So what are your studies like? For example, do you have what kind of courses do you have there? Are there seminars, exercises, group work, individual work?
Yeah, so in Mikkeli, we have a little bit different from a normal university, just because we are so small. This picture was actually taken from one of the first days when they were introducing the whole program, but we haven't really had that many main lectures. A lot of it is group work. We work in smaller groups and work with projects and things like that. So it's a little bit different from just going to a lecture hall, learning the things, and then going home and then studying by yourself. It's very, there's a whole community involved, as I said at the start. You go to school, you have a chat with your friends about something, you go and do a group project or discuss in teams about the topics that you're learning about, and then the teacher or the professor then goes deeper into the things that you've been discussing and you've been learning about, and then you can really apply that knowledge to sort of different aspects of your learning. So it's, for me, that's one of the best ways that I learn is through doing and acting rather than just sitting and listening. What about you, Labiba?
Yeah, I would say my studies are very much sort of standard uni life studies type of thing, where it is indeed that you go to a lecture, you take notes, you go to a lot of these what are called exercise sessions, where you actually get to sit down with assistants who help you out with coursework. Of course, you can do what I did during my Corona year and just hole yourself up at home and not meet anyone for one whole year and be very sad. Or you can do what I'm doing this year, which is actually meeting up with classmates, doing things together, getting through coursework and exercises together, which is, by the way, what I definitely recommend. But also, I would say definitely doesn't stop there. It's not just these lectures, because you get to take a lot of different types of courses, including electives. So for example, again, I could be at a lecture, or I could be on some island for 4 days camping out with a bunch of different students from all around the school. So the possibilities are really endless. In fact, I think there was even some course that starts at like 1 a.m. in the morning and ends at like 5 a.m. It's crazy. There's a lot of weird and interesting things that they offer at Otaniemi. But yeah, it really depends on what you take.
So would you say that your studies are flexible, and how much you can affect the courses that you take? Is the attendance mandatory at the lectures?
Yeah, it's flexible to a certain extent, in the sense that it's, how do I word this? It can be flexible, but maybe you'd rather not want it to be flexible, so that everything is laid out for you, but you are allowed to do everything differently. Someone in the comments mentioned 1 a.m. to 5 a.m. That was an exception, by the way. That was a course specifically called Night Shift, where you do courses during the nighttime. It was some sort of art course meant to try out something new. So don't worry, you guys won't be up at 1 a.m. for courses. That's not what we do here in Finland. But yeah, back to flexibility. You definitely get to switch around, take different courses, do what you want, which is what I really enjoyed. But then also, you're expected to show up to lectures and, get your work done. But important question, attendance is not mandatory. You don't have a teacher going around with a list of attendance and, having your name marked, nothing like that. So everything is, according to your own will. So whatever you want to do, however you want to do it, is how you do it.
Good. Natalie, is the same for you?
No, it's actually quite different from Mikkeli. So I think a common thing with Mikkeli is that we are very different in most aspects. Our studies are quite structured. So there's a couple of courses to choose from each module, and each module lasts 3 weeks. And those classes are always from 9 until 12, or then alternatively, then you have it from 1 until 4. So, and you are expected to be at those lectures. We do have an attendance policy, which is quite different from most other places as well. But it really forces you to really interact and socialize and have that sense of community with your classmates. So some people do not like the attendance policy, but most people are quite happy that it's there. And it's the class times aren't unreasonable. So people are quite happy to have the attendance policy, even though sometimes it may be a little bit difficult to wake up in the morning.
Yes. So are there multidisciplinarity opportunities in your study? So you can can you take some other courses that are not according to your program in addition, or
In
or
Milica,
it's
not so much. We do have quite a structured courses that we can take, because the major is held within Mikkeli. But when you go abroad for your exchange, we do have a mandatory exchange, and then you are quite free to take whatever you like. Obviously, we do have choices in Mikkeli. You're not forced to take a specific course if you don't want to. But we do have a couple of options, and you are expected to choose from the 3, 4, or 5 options that are offered to you. And most of them are centered around international business, but we do have some HR courses, we have some finance courses, we have some accounting courses, we have a little bit of everything. So although there are not necessarily multidisciplinary opportunities that you can choose yourself, but it's sort of automatically implied that you do study different aspects of business.
Okay, thank you. And Labiba, how is that for you? Is the multidisciplinary important in your program, and can you have it?
Yeah. So the answer is, thankfully for me at least, yes. There very much is a multidisciplinary aspect to my studies, or in general, if you're in autonomy. So, for example, I know a couple of people that are they study Econ with me, but they're considering minoring in something like theater or film studies, which I thought was crazy. When I first heard that, I was like, no way you can minor in film studies while majoring in Econ. But yes, you can. Because as much as Econ is, great, it has its, lovely technicalities. It is not something that I, for example, personally would want to be studying 24/7. So knowing that there's a multidisciplinary option for me was godsend. So I, for example, will be doing my minor in marketing, which I think is great. 2 complete different areas of business, but I still get to take both of them, which I'm very grateful for. And then also there's the fact that you can take different courses from the different schools at Aalto. So for example, like I already mentioned, I've taken a bunch of art electives, some extremely great professors in the art department, and as I'm sure you know, Milica. So just little things like that, I'm very appreciative about the fact that I am allowed to sort of converge in between the 3 different schools.
Well, it's great to hear completely different experiences you have. So can you share with us what is your course load like? So what does a study year look on Aalto, like semesters, and what courses are you taking at the moment? So Labiba, you can explain, for example, how the semester or the whole academic year is separated. And
right. So like I mentioned before, it really differs between people, at least in autonomy. So I have this term, or this period, I have a English language academic writing
Can you tell more about periods? Because I'm not sure if everyone are familiar with the periods.
Right. So we have the 2 semesters that everyone, I'm sure, is familiar with. And then during the autumn semester, we have 2 periods. And then during the spring semester, we have 3 periods. And I believe they're roughly 6 months long. Yeah, that should be it. So the courses I'm doing right now are the writing course that I mentioned. I'm also doing an art course regarding the climate change crisis that's happening right now, and sort of within that course they try to take in as many students from different fields to gain sort of a holistic perspective on the topic, which I think is very cool. And then I have microeconomics part 1. It's divided into 2, so I'm taking part 1 right now. But yeah, course load is definitely dependent on how much you do during the different periods. For example, if you do more in period 1, which is what I'm doing right now, I'm thinking of slacking off a bit in period 2. So it's really depending on what you want to do.
And how is the situation on Mikali?
Yeah, so with the international business degree, the course load is quite similar for the courses. We have three hours of lectures every single day, and you are expected to be at those lectures. And afterwards, you may have group work, or you may have an assignment, and you can study however much you like or however little you like. But it is equated to a full-time job, since we have these very intensive modules. In Mikkeli, we have 3 weeks for each course. We don't have the similar periods like we do in the main campus. So you focus on one course in 3 weeks. So for instance, at the start of September, maybe I will take an accounting course. And then for those 3 weeks, from the 1st of September to I guess the 21st of September, I will only study accounting. So that means that I can focus all of my energy onto that accounting, and I can really learn and go deeply into the subject without having to worry about deadlines from other courses.
So you can focus at one thing at a time.
Yeah, so it very much depends on your own effort, but many people at least study a couple of hours each day and do some coursework afterwards. But yeah, so it's very dependent on the person. I've usually spent 3 hours in the lectures and 3 hours 3 hours after the course, but sometimes I'll take a day off in the afternoon and I'll do something fun, or I'll do an extracurricular activity, and then the next day or the next week I'll make that time up. But it's very dependent on all of the assignments and the group works and things like that.
Yeah, sounds really intense. So it would be good to go to your daily schedule. So we can start with Labiba. How your day looks like.
Yeah, okay. So apparently I wake up at 10. That can be a bit of a lie. Maybe I'll wake up later. Apparently I go to the gym as well. That could also be a bit of a lie. I've been slacking, but only because I've been a little sick. But yes, no, I do tend to follow the schedule. Then I'll go grab some, I don't live on campus, so I'll go grab some lunch on campus with some friends. Then there will usually be a 2-hour lecture on campus that I'll go and grab because they're being offered right now. Why wouldn't I go and actually see the lecture live? Then I'll work on the problem set. And by the problem set, I mean, usually in Econ, at least, the way you go about with coursework is that you're given problem sets every week to work on regarding that week's lecture material. So I'll work on the problem set for a couple of hours or then do my other coursework. And then I'll have some downtime. Usually this entails sort of lazing around, watching TikToks, or then if I'm feeling extra productive, I'll do some more work towards the problem sets because sometimes they do tend to take up quite a bit of time for my day. And then I'll go to sleep or then have a good night's of fun if it's the weekend. Yeah.
Sounds good. And how about you, Natalie?
Yeah, so my schedule, it very much depends on which 3 weeks I'm doing. So I did it based on the morning lectures, just because I have had a little bit more of the morning lectures than the afternoon lectures. So if I have morning lectures, I usually wake up at about 8 o'clock. and get myself ready and walk to the campus because Mikkeli is very, very small. So the longest time to actually walk to campus, I think, is about 15 to 20 minutes, depending on where you live. But for me, since I live very close to the campus, it took me 5 minutes to get to the campus. So I was able to hang around with my friends in the morning and actually get to lecture before 9 o'clock. And then I have my lectures until 12. And then straight away I go to the lunch hall and I have lunch with my friends. And then after lunch, I maybe study or do some group work, or then I would go home and do some study and relaxation, or then the other way round. So it's quite flexible in the afternoons, but then usually at around 6 o'clock, after a couple hours of studying or doing some group work or something like that, then I'll decide that, okay, now is my time to rest, and I will spend some time with my friends. I actually lived in something we call legacy houses, but I'll talk about them more later. So I got to really spend a lot of time with my friends and get to know people. And then at around midnight, I'd go to sleep, except on Wednesdays and Fridays, because those are our community nights, where we would have some parties and some group activities. But yeah, so Wednesday and Fridays are our fun nights.
Great. So I believe that many of you realized already that we have campuses in Otaniemi and Mikkeli, and that is another topic for today's conversation. So what is the campus like? Natalie, you can start.
Okay, so this is a picture from my campus. The picture is slightly bigger, but not much. We have a very, very small campus. And it's basically one building that you can see behind the group of people. We have a lunch hall. We have about 5 classrooms varying in sizes, including a lecture hall where it's just a normal lecture hall. But apart from that, there's not much else. We do have a community room as well in the school as well, where we sometimes have sort of get-togethers, and we have some programs on Wednesday in the
Do you have maybe some student restaurants, shops, sports facilities?
Yeah, so we have one restaurant, where we don't get much choice. There's only 200 of us at any given time, 80 in the first year, 80 in the second year, and then about 40 exchange students in total. So we don't actually have a sports hall, but there are sports halls that we go to if we want to, which is rented and shared with the nearby universities. But yeah, it's very small, but very it gives a massive sense of community, at least. So it's very nice.
So Labiba, is the situation different with you?
Different? Do you mean opposite?
Opposite, yes.
Because it very much is. Honestly, I feel like whenever I go on campus, I feel like an ant, because it is so huge, and I just feel so tiny compared to all of the buildings, which are, by the way, beautifully architected by. Do I go into this? We'll save this for another day. But yeah, beautiful campus, beautiful buildings, and I don't know, where do I start? Probably the building of business, where the business students go. We have our own school of business. It's basically like directly connected to the metro station. So if you take the metro to go to school, it's like right there, which is kind of convenient. We have a bunch of student restaurants dotted around the campus. There's a gym, I believe, nearby, meant for uni students. And yeah, there's There's a lot.
There is a lot.
Yeah.
So what is your favorite thing about the campus?
Well, I personally do like the beach that we have nearby. So it's called Otaranta because from the limited events I've had on campus, a couple of them have been there, and it's been very nice to just be near the water. It's very scenic, and I mean, come on, why wouldn't you want a beach right next to your school, right? So
Yes.
I go with that.
Natalie, how is it for you?
So as usual, because Mikkeli is so small,
Mhm.
we are right in the center, and it takes about 5 minutes to get anywhere in the center, and everything is all in one place, and you don't have to use much effort to navigate around Mikkeli. But also it's sort of a summer cottage area as well. So it's by the Lake Saimaa, which is absolutely beautiful. So there's so many nice nature walks, and my first house in Mikkeli, or not my house, but my apartment in Mikkeli was very, very close to the forest, and I went for a walk every single week, and there was a different route to take and a different place to explore. And this was taken during the winter when all the snow was melting and it was becoming summer. So it was, I really do love the smallness of Mikkeli. Even though it doesn't fit for some people, but most people fall in love with it, even though they're terrified of going to such a small place. Because even though Helsinki is small, I was quite worried about moving to Mikkeli. I thought, there can't be anything there. There can't be anything there. But it's a really nice surprise. It's an amazing place, and even if you're just visiting Finland, then or living in Finland, then visit Mikkeli, because it's just a beautiful little city.
Thank you, good to know that. So now can we move on to housing and student benefits, because students in Finland are entitled to many benefits, and it would be nice if you could share some things that you use. So what kind of housing opportunities are there for students regarding the different apartment types, maybe prices, location of the apartments, if you're familiar with it?
Yeah,
Labiba?
so in
Natalie?
in Mikkeli, there's not actually much to choose from. We do have a MOAS there, which is very similar to the HOAS. So it's the Mikkeli Student Housing Association. And there's lots of different places to choose from, but they're all very different little houses. I had a student house, and then after the first year, I actually moved to a legacy house. So in Mikkeli, you have these privately rented apartments, and about 3 or 4 people live in a legacy house, and they're handed down each year to the next generation of Mikkeli people. So there are many different options in Mikkeli. Some people have private apartments, but many do actually have these privately owned student apartments, and they spend their first year there and then move to a legacy house in the second year.
Is the legacy house some kind of accommodation that where students share like some shared spaces, or you have your dorm, or you have your room with kitchen, or how it look like?
Yeah, so it's just a normal apartment usually. I lived in 2 different legacy houses, so I lived in 3 different apartments in Mikkeli. Not because they were bad, but just because I had different friends and I had different opportunities. So first I lived in the student housing, which was I'm not sure what you call them in English, but it's like a solo apartment, so like a cell apartment where I had my own room and I had my own lock, but I shared a bathroom and a kitchen with some roommates that I hadn't met before. But there is the opportunity to also have your completely own student apartment. But then I moved to a legacy house with a group of friends. And I had my own room there, and we shared a kitchen and a living room and a bathroom, and but we didn't have like specific locks on the doors because it was sort of more of a family that was actually just friends. And that's the same with the next apartment that I moved to. I moved in with my boyfriend into his room, and I had I lived with a group of boys, which was very interesting. Lots of cleaning, but it was a really lovely experience. So I wouldn't change it for the world.
Oh, great. Wonderful to hear that. And how is with you, Labiba? Are you familiar with HOAS and AYY? Can you tell more about these two?
Well, I can try. The issue is that because I started studying during the pandemic, I didn't really have the it was circumstantial, but I essentially stayed with my parents. But this year I'm looking to sort of move out of the house and find my way. So basically, from my very limited experience, I know that AYY offers some some shared flats with roommates, or then they have the studio apartments as well, sort of scattered around the Espoo area. So either on campus or then slightly off campus. And the way that AYY does this is that they have this priority point system where if you have certain characteristics, you're sort of prioritized in a queue. So for example, if you're an exchange student, or if you have children, or if you don't have residents within the metropolitan area, which I think is great. And then there's the HOAS system, which is a sort of like Helsinki-wide housing system, which is personally what I've been looking into because I'm trying to move out with a friend who's actually studying at the University of Helsinki, so not Aalto. And that has also a bunch of student-friendly different types of apartments, all kinds. And yeah, but with HOAS, the location is definitely a lot more like wider than AYY, where it's sort of concentrated on campus.
Okay, thank you. Really good answer.
I could actually add a little bit to the AYY apartment because I actually recently moved to Helsinki, and I'm living in an AYY apartment, and it was actually a really easy process. I applied about a year before just to make sure that I got the perfect house for me, and I now live, I don't live in Espoo actually, I live in Helsinki, in a place called Arabia, and it's right by the seaside, and I really enjoy living there, and it's a very nice apartment. So there's also options outside of Espoo as well if you perhaps work in the center, if you're studying the program that Labiba is attending.
I actually didn't know that, so that is very useful. Yes.
So I think that we covered this question, but can you tell us more, Natalie, why did you decide to live? Where do you live right now? Because you moved a lot.
Yeah, so I am now living in Helsinki actually. I moved because I had finished my studies in Mikkeli, and now I'm just waiting for my exchange abroad, which is half a year. So I'm leaving in February to Italy. So I'm really excited about that. But I didn't actually have anything to study anymore in Mikkeli. So I started my master's degree program this summer. Before I'd finished my bachelor's degree, but it was just a summer course. And after I'd finished my summer course, the summer course was in Helsinki. So I decided to move back to Helsinki, and now I'm working, but I'll get into that a little bit later. So I'm living in Helsinki now in a student apartment, even though I'm enrolled in Mikkeli as a student. I will go on exchange in February. So.
Oh, great. Lots of different opportunities for you. And you, Labiba, are you in Helsinki, in Espoo?
Yeah, no, I'm not in Espoo. I'm in Helsinki. I'm in the eastern part of Helsinki, so it actually takes me quite a bit of time to get to school. but hopefully that will not be the case for anyone applying to Aalto, because you will definitely get a more optimal place to live in if you
Yes,
do.
and that leads us to our next question, which is it easy to get to the campus for you, Labiba?
Well, luckily I started after the metro line towards Espoo was completed. So it is actually quite simple for me to just hop onto the nearest metro and just go straight to Aalto, but it takes a while. It takes sort of, I don't know, what, like 45 minutes. So I like to get some work done in that time. Yeah.
And Natalie, for you?
Yeah, so this picture was actually taken on my way home from school. You can see my house through the trees. This is in Mikkeli, of course. So it was a beautiful snowy day, and all I have to do is walk through the woods a little bit to get home. And it takes about 5 minutes. But yeah, so very super duper easy to get to the campus. There is also a roadway for the night, because I don't want to trip over some tree roots accidentally and then freeze in the cold. But during the day it's beautiful to walk through the forest to get to school. So very easy, very beautiful, very happy with my commute.
Wonderful. So there are also some different benefits for students. So what kind of student benefits are there that you are familiar with, or are you using? Maybe discounts or in student restaurants, gyms, anything that you can share with us?
Yeah, well, okay, this is my picture. I went to grab a coffee with a friend, and very conveniently there was a sign that said Frank near the cashier. So essentially what that means, Frank is an app meant for student benefits for students all around Finland. And whenever you see that sign, you can essentially, you know that all you have to do is just flash your card, and then there will be some sort of student discount for you just waiting. So I find that very convenient. It's bright pink, you cannot miss it. And on top of that, their app actually has a search function where you can search anything and then see what kind of student benefits are on offer. And then of course there are the various student restaurants on campus which offer fresh hot meals every day at a very cheap price. I think roughly like €2, I believe, a meal.
270?
270. Yeah, something like that. And then there's also the Kela subsidy on top of that, but I believe that's for Finnish students only. So yeah, just a bunch of different, usually related to food, but there's also student-friendly prices for gyms, for example, through Unisport. What else? I think those are the main ones.
Student apartments, I think that are quite affordable here.
Oh yeah, for sure. If you apply through the systems that we already showed you, which is AYY and HOAS if you're in Helsinki.
Natalie?
Yeah, very similar student benefits to as Labiba said. The only thing that I would add is that you can also get scholarships in Mikkeli as well. So I would class that as a student benefit for people coming from abroad. But yeah, I eat meals every day for €2.70. Super duper affordable. One of my favorite things about being a student, I'll be so sad when I have to actually buy meals with a lot of money in the future. But yeah, so food and drinks, and then you can get discounts off of also gym products. There's all sorts of things with the student benefits that you can get, and also the travel ticket is half price, which I think is very important. It's only 34 euros per month to travel around in Helsinki if you're a student, and that's like including the Helsinki Espoo area, which is very, very important for me because I do not have 70 euros to spend on a bus card.
So what kind of city, it's not traffic, I'm forgetting the words,
public transportation?
What kind of transportation you can use by paying this like 34 euros fee?
Yeah, so in Helsinki, at least, you can use every single public transportation. You can use the metro, you can use the bus, the trams, the train. But that's only for Helsinki. In Mikkeli, you do not need to use a public transportation. Everything is so small, so together. But you do get a student benefit, a student discount when traveling from and to Helsinki. From Mikkeli, and usually I've been traveling for 11 euros from Helsinki to Mikkeli, and then 11 euros back again. So it's very affordable considering it's about like a 2.5 hour journey. So it's really worth it to be a student and to travel around in Helsinki. So
that's great to hear. So now we can move on to career opportunities. At Aalto, students can explore different kinds of work opportunities already during their studies. I hope that you can tell us, is it possible to combine studies with work? Labiba, you can start.
Okay, yeah. So this is a very familiar picture to me and Milica. This is essentially what is known as the Aalto Squad, which I became a part of this year. So I mentioned that I have a minor in marketing, and I was looking to sort of explore that minor further, and I was wondering, could I possibly work in this field? And turns out, yes, I can. Aalto was offering positions for the Aalto Squad, which is essentially this marketing team for Aalto, which creates, content throughout the different social media platforms that Aalto is on. So, well, me and Milica are here, for example, talking to you guys. We're on Instagram. We'll be on TikTok. We're on all the big things. Snapchat, all of that. So, writing blogs and talking to different potential applicants for the school. This has all been sort of a part of our job description. So I would say, yes, it's definitely possible to combine studies with work because especially if it's part-time, you'll be okay. Because you'll always have some downtime in uni. Either your lectures are only 3 hours long, as in Mikkeli, or then here in Otaniemi, you'll only have like a couple of hours of contact teaching every day. So you definitely have the chance to combine work with studies.
And how did you actually find your job offer for Aalto Squad?
I found it because I was procrastinating and going through Instagram, and I just saw that Aalto had a story which was like, hey, please apply to Aalto Squad if you're interested. And I was like, why not? Of course, I would. Literally the field that I kind of want to, get into. And so I did.
And how about you, Natalie? Do you have some experience with working full-time, part-time jobs?
Yeah, so although there is technically time to do a job, it's very recommended that you get a very flexible job in Mikkeli. You are expected to devote your study time to your studies, and studies is meant to be the number one thing that you dedicate your time for. And it's not so flexible with the studies, especially because we have the attendance policy. So you must be at classes at the specific times. So it's recommended not to get a job, but some people have done it. They work at small places like at a gym or in Burger King if they want. But I worked in the student marketing team as well. It didn't take that much of my time, and I was very in charge of how much work I put into it and or didn't put into it. So you would need a very flexible job if you were to work in Mikkeli. That being said, in Mikkeli we have the studies are 3 years long, but 2 to 2.5 years are spent in Mikkeli, and depending on how quickly you get your studies done, I did mine in just under 2 years. So now I had a half a year slot with nothing to do. So I'm actually at the moment working at Slush full time because I don't have any studies to do at the moment whilst I'm waiting for my exchange. And many people go on exchange and then work for 6 months, but I chose to work for 6 months and then go on exchange. So yes, kind of, but it's better to do a full-time job more intensely at the 6 months point, because in Mikkeli as well, a lot of information, but in Mikkeli, you usually study during the summer as well. We have these language courses during the summer. So you don't really get the opportunity to do a summer job in the first summer, at least, when you're working, when you go to school in Mikkeli. So it is recommended to do the 6 months of working. And I was very lucky. I got a really amazing job here at Slush, and I've been really enjoying it so far.
Great, thank you for this really detailed explanation. So are you familiar with what kind of career opportunities are there for students and recent graduates? For example, you have a job right now.
Yeah. So, this is a picture from Slush. There's actually 4 Mikkeli alumni working in Slush at the moment. But this is definitely not the only place that you could go to work. I have friends that are working in bigger corporations like Wärtsilä and Nordea. I have friends working in small startups like 180 Consulting, in Rens. So there's a lot of different career opportunities when you first get out of Mikkeli, and I think that really sets the pace for what you can be employed in the future. I have friends working in Hong Kong. I have friends working in Italy, in the Czech Republic. I have friends working in America. So we have so many opportunities, and often a lot of Mikkeli alumni will ask the student community, the alumni community, that, hey, there's a job, would you like this job, or is anyone in Mikkeli interested in this job? So we really take care of each other as well, and Mikkeli is a great place to network. So your doors are very much open. I've got people working in management, I've got people working in finance, in consulting is quite a common career path that people choose, to consulting and then somewhere else from that. So
so there are different like events, networks, or fairs that you can hear about all these jobs, at least at Mikkeli. I'm not sure if Labiba, you're familiar with this kind of events.
Yeah, we have career day in Mikkeli at least. So we hear about what everyone else has been doing, and things like that. But Labiba, why don't you open up a little bit more about this sort of stuff?
Yeah, about the fairs and workshops, we have plenty of those in Otaniemi at least. I mean, it's the School of Business. Come on, you've got to have them. So every day I'll have my email being flooded with these sort of networking events and workshops, and I think I literally just got one during this webinar about like how to do an interview, which is cool. So a lot of those. There's a whole sort of community, at least in the School of Business, sort of dedicated to just networking and just making sure that everyone is connected. They really do focus on networking at the School of Business. So I find that very helpful. And in terms of career opportunities, I'm not very familiar with them, as I don't know, I'm only a second year student. I haven't really heard much, but from the positions that I've seen, it's mostly like analyst positions or like consulting positions at various firms that Natalie has already listed. So a bunch of those.
Okay, great to hear that as well. Thank you. So now we can talk more about fun stuff, about student life. So what is the student life like in your 2 campuses? For example, do you have different associations, volunteering, events, sports, parties, whatever you Yeah, then. Labiba, you can start with this one. Natalie, however you like.
Go ahead, Labiba.
Yeah. Student life is it's very much hectic.
Mhm.
There's a lot going on, at least in autonomy. Every day there's some event happening on campus that you've just got to go to. In fact, I actually have to be somewhere after this. But anyways, let's not get into that. Yeah, there's a lot to do on campus. If it's not within your subject, so for example, Econ, it's within the School of Business. If it's not within the School of Business, it's within all of the 3 schools in Aalto. So as I'm sure you can tell, it really adds up. There's something always to do. For example, we have a bunch of subcommittees within the business school. So the business school student union is known as KY, and they have a bunch of subcommittees. And the one I'm sort of most, or the events that I participate most are the KY sub activities, because they're sort of catered towards international students and exchange students, which is sort of more of my crowd. So I do tend to go to their events more. But they have different they have the other subcommittees as well, and then they have clubs. So there could be like KY Vegas is having some sort of info night, and they're sort of specialized in different kind of games. There's a bunch of whiskey and beer tasting clubs here as well. There's I mentioned I was a part of the debate club. There's a debate club here as well. So a lot of different, if not subcommittees, you'll definitely be a part of a club. Yeah.
Great. And how is situation in Mikkeli regarding that you are a really small community?
Yeah, no, even though we have a very small community, we definitely have a very good student life. We are sometimes known as the party people, but we have lots of different clubs. We have board games club, we have Baba Kitchen, so we call ourselves Babas, so I might refer to a lot of Baba. We have Skibba, which is a skiing and sports club. We have I'm part of one of the boards that actually organize the Wednesday night programs. So I make sure that everyone has something to do on Wednesdays and has a lot of fun. We have a student organization that is specific to ours, even though we are part of the main KY that Labiba just mentioned. So we organize lots of different things for the new students, and we make sure that we definitely have a very good student life. We have some of the best events, as reported by other students, not just us, but we have something called Mikkeli Road Trip, where we invite lots of different students from other universities, and they come and we show them how to party like a Mikkeli person. So it's
Can you tell maybe something more about these overalls? I believe that students are interested.
Yes.
In that.
So in Finland, we have overalls, and I'm wearing one in the picture, and we wear those overalls to different parties. And the idea is that you have the school's emblem, I think that's what it's called, on the back, so people know where you're studying. But then also you get these badges, as you can see on my leg a little bit. This was very earlier on in the year, on my second year, so I hadn't attended too many parties. But you get badges from attending events, and then you sew them on to your overalls. And that's sort of your pride and joy as you go around in parties, and people can identify what sort of events you've been to or what school you go to when you're having a great time at parties. So it's something that personally also really attracted me to the Finnish school life. I was thinking of going to England to study, actually to Scotland. But then I thought, oh my goodness, but I won't get the overalls. So that was honestly part of the reason why I stayed in Finland.
I can feel you. So great. What do you do on your free time?
Yeah, so in my free time, this is me playing Monopoly with my tutor group. I was a tutor this year. We did so much stuff. As I said, I lived in a legacy house, so a lot of my nights were spent watching films. At the moment, I living in Helsinki, we have this Spooktober. Since it's October, we watch a different horror film every single night. No matter how tired everyone is, they have to come to someone's apartment and watch a horror film, and it's amazing. It's just a lovely excuse to hang out with your friends, and that's one of the most important things I think about my free time, that I actually have to spend time with people and friends and things like that, because I've gotten myself into these different organizations and groups of people that force me to have a good time. So
And you, Labiba?
Yeah, I would say I noticed during my first year at school that a lot of the friends I had, because it was during lockdown, during the pandemic, they were simply people that I talked to on a school basis. So I never really approached them outside of school. And I really hated that. It was like, this doesn't feel like the student life that I signed up for when I went to uni. So I sort of have spent my second year breaking that boundary and really like, I'm smiling like an idiot because these people that I've gotten to know are just so close to my heart, and the way I've gotten to know them and have had fun with them has been so amazing. And usually how that works is that we go on Facebook, and there's different Facebook pages. There's the one for Aalto, or there's the one for business students, and they usually have events listed that are coming up that you can buy tickets for through a separate app, or then they're just free and you just show up. So we like sort through them, and we're like, oh, this one sounds cool. This is like some ski party and like up in Lapland, and this is some painting get together with some business students. It's we see the silliest ones or then the funnest ones, and we pick them and then we go to them. So I've sort of used this as the method to get to know my classmates and get to know the people that I want to get closer with.
Great. So it's always good to know where you can like find more about all these events, because there are many of them here. I'm kind of lost since I got here for the last month. So now we can talk about the Aalto community, because it's really good to know that Aalto is home to a diverse and multidisciplinary community of students, staff, and faculty. So can you share with us how were you welcomed to the community? Regarding like, did you have any tutors? How were your roommates? Did you have any events by your association or something else, maybe guild events?
Yeah, so in Mikkeli, we were welcomed well and truly properly. We have this thing called O Week, so orientation week, and it's to get your bearings and to really figure out what Mikkeli is like. You don't have any courses. There are some sort of different things that you may need to do with studies, but mostly it's to have a good time, to get to know people, break down those like psychological barriers that you may have, so that you can really work with everyone really properly. There are so many international people in my course that I learned so much about different cultures, about lots of different people. And my tutors helped facilitate that. I had two amazing tutors, and they really helped me welcome Mikkeli with open arms, and Mikkeli welcomed me back. And I couldn't have asked for a better first week of school that really then helped me get the most out of my studies.
Really beautiful. And how it was for you, Labiba?
I keep on repeating this, but I feel like it must be emphasized that I had an exceptional case where I started during the pandemic. I'm just so traumatized. I just have to keep
Yes.
But nonetheless, I feel like I was definitely welcomed with a very warm hug to Aalto, and we had something similar to O Week. Instead of O Week, it's, well, orientation week, which is the same thing, but it's called Puksiviikko in Finnish, and it's basically when all of the students, the first year students, come together. It's by the different schools. So, for example, the business schools would come together and have all of these different sort of freshers events where you come together with your tutor group and your tutor, and you do these cute little activities and get to know each other. And also, of course, there was technical stuff where you have to see where to go on campus and other details. But yeah, there was definitely a lot of events during orientation week. And at least my tutor was amazing. He was amazing. He helped me. He held my hand. He babied me throughout my first weeks. This is the same guy who sort of stayed up with me at 2 a.m. helping me answer calculus questions because he just felt like it and I asked for it. So I was like, I'm in good hands when I came to Aalto. So I really appreciated that.
Oh, really nice. Oh, so the really important question maybe, are the Finns hard to get to know and make friends? Because I believe that all internationals, at least I was really worried about it. So it would be really nice to hear. I had great experience, so it would be really nice to hear yours.
Yeah, so although I'm not myself like a fully international person, since I had been living in Finland for a couple of years, the way that I saw that everyone was welcomed, no one cared where you were from. Well, people cared where you were from, because we were all so excited, like, oh wow, you're from Poland, oh wow, you're from Kazakhstan, you're from Vietnam, you're from India, America, Australia, everywhere, and just it was this form of bonding that I'd never seen before, because everyone was so different, but they bonded over the fact that they were new in Finland, and everyone was very nervous, but we just had so many amazing opportunities. So it was just wonderful to see that although everyone had such big differences, everyone's actually the same. So
yes, you just answered to my next question, and that is what it's like to be an international student. So you cannot actually tell from your experience because you are both more or less from Finland, but can you tell like how do you like meet with other international students? Are you close to them? Are you more like about spending time with the locals? Or Labiba, do you have some international friends?
Well, unlike Natalie, who's in a very nicely internationalized community there in Italy, I definitely have a lot more contact with the local Otaniemi Finnish students. And I would say it's definitely like a split where I hang out with the so-called locals, and then I also like to be with my international crowd. As I mentioned, I was but active in KY Sub, which is the international committee for the students. But just to quickly address the previous question, I would say that the sort of stereotype of Finnish people being very cold and distant is kind of outdated. I feel like there's this new generation of Finns that are a lot more globalized and like very social and actually wanting to meet new people. So I would say if you're sort of Googling what are Finnish people like, you're going to have some very outdated responses of people who are talking about these sort of, more classic Finns from a little bit way back. But I would say that's definitely not the case. If you meet a Finn, they will be very excited to get to know you, especially if you're international. They really do like international students and getting to know different people.
Yeah, at least that was my experience. So I believe that many people are worried about this one. Is it possible to survive without knowing Finnish in Finland?
Absolutely. I actually included this picture because I thought that it's definitely possible to survive without Finnish. Finnish people, in fact, it's kind of hard to learn Finnish in Finland, even when you're trying to speak to the locals, because locals, they just really want to practice their English on you. They're like, oh my goodness, you speak English, this is great, like please practice English with me. So it is a little bit difficult to learn Finnish. But the thing that you're going to probably be the most shocked about is the temperature in the winter. I had last week this French boy, we were talking and we were outside for a little bit. He was in his winter coat, his winter gloves, his winter hat, and then he's like, oh my goodness, it's so cold, it's so cold. And I was thinking it's like 8 degrees at night right now, and he's like, this is my biggest winter jacket that I can have. And I was like, oh goodness me, you are going to have a not very good time. So just the thing that you might need to prepare for is a little bit of the cold, especially if you come from somewhere like Vietnam, or you've never seen snow before. But apart from that, Finland's so easy to survive. It's just an amazing place. But I don't know if Labiba has any different tips and tricks.
Well, I myself, my Finnish is very rusty because, like Natalie, I also studied mostly in English. So my Finnish is kind of limited. So in that sense, I can definitely assure anybody who's worried about this that it is possible to study in Finnish. I mean, studying Finnish, survive without Finnish. Just because Finland is such an English-friendly country, you could literally get anything done in English. Absolutely no worries. Yeah, I would just say yes. That is my answer. Simple yes.
Okay, thank you for all of your answers. Now we are done with the first part of our presentation, and now we can move on to the Q&A, where we will try to answer as many questions as we can. So it seems like there have been questions regarding the admissions, so our student cannot answer that. I told you already in the beginning that you can join the webinar that will be held on Friday by the admission services, so you can ask all these questions there. And also you can send an email to admissions@aalto.fi. And now we can start with our questions. Okay, the first question is first year exchange study in a different university mandatory for everyone, even for students with small kids and or full-time work? I believe this is a question for Natalie.
Yeah, so there isn't a 1-year exchange, but it's only 6 months. But basically the answer is yes, but there has been some instances where people don't go abroad, or they only go to somewhere like Sweden, which is very close. So especially during this pandemic years, I think the sort of way of going to exchange has changed a little bit, and it's more possible to take other courses from the main campus, for instance, in order to get those credits. So shortly, yes, but there are some exceptions to going on the exchange. So yes and no, but you probably won't be working full time if you are studying in Mikkeli. So I don't think that would necessarily be an issue. But small kids, you'll probably survive.
Okay, thank you. Next question is there any chance I can get to know more about the way of studying international business in Aalto? I heard the business field is quite wide and the opportunities of work after graduating.
Yeah, so I went through this a little bit later on after the question was asked, but definitely you can study so many different things. Like I mentioned, like accounting, finance, economics, management, human resources, business strategy, and there's so many lots of different little courses that you can take. And I think there is a course list on the Mikkeli Indo website. So if you go to if you search aalto.indo, I can find the link for you in just a moment. But yeah, you can get more information there at least.
Okay, thank you. Next question is, what kind of extracurricular activities can international business students do? For example, arts, sports.
Yeah, so as I mentioned, we have some sports clubs. We have salibandi, so indoor hockey, with just normal shoes. We have skiing, skating, we have running, we have football, but you can pretty much start your own club in Mikkeli and do whatever you want. At the moment, we don't have a specific like arts club, so that's something that you can definitely start. But we do have a cooking club, which is kind of art with food, I guess. So there are different options, and you can create options for yourself as well. It's very free.
And Labiba, can you tell us more about the Aalto campus and these activities? Because it is quite different. I mean, you said already that you take like the art courses. So can you tell us a bit more? If you can, it's fine. If you don't have experience. I mean, something in addition of what you already said.
I'm trying to think in terms of extracurriculars. I mean, I would say your main gateway to extracurricular activities is definitely through the clubs, if you want to do it through the school. So again, the number of clubs available in Otaniemi at least are endless. You will find something that you are interested in. So like, oh, I could add, I really am into writing, for example. I do enough of that in Aalto squad, so I'm not personally involved in any clubs. So, but I do know that there's a journalism club, for example. Or then I was involved in choir in high school. There's a choir club in Aalto. So just little things like that. If you just search through, you will find something that you're interested in.
Okay, thank you. The next question for you two is it compulsory to gain work experiences during studies?
No, you don't. It's obviously recommended to do something during the 6 months, but a lot of my friends have taken these short holidays, and I was actually planning to take a small holiday during this time, but then I got an unexpected opportunity to work. So no, you do not have to work. So you can do whatever you want. It's very free. So no.
Labiba, it's same in your case?
Yeah, I would say the same. There is definitely the sort of initiative between students who there's this sort of mentality that, okay, maybe I should be working or like having an internship, especially at the School of Business. But again, it's definitely not compulsory. You're not expected to work at all.
Okay, there is next question to Labiba, so she can give her estimate. What the % of Finnish and international students at the Econ Bachelors?
Okay, I'm not sure if I can give specific numbers, but it is definitely an overwhelming sort of majority for Finnish students. But there are definitely international students, and they go through the same application process. So maybe it was just that more Finns applied.
Okay, thank you. Okay, how's the age diversity at the bachelor level, but also at Aalto in general, bachelors and masters in economics, for example? I mean, how many are over 25?
Interesting question, and actually kind of relevant because I feel like I'm the only person who's like 20 in my class. So what I'm trying to say is that the students do tend to be older. In fact, my closest friend in the class is 24. So they tend to range in between, I would say 19 to 25 based on what I've seen, but it really depends. Yeah.
Natalie, is the same for you?
Yeah, I would say in Mikkeli it's a little bit younger. A lot of people go straight to Mikkeli. So I do have there are a couple people that are 17, just because they have come from abroad, or they've skipped a year abroad and then come to Finland. So we have most people are about 19, 20, 21, but we do have maybe 2 or 3 people a year that are over 25 to 30. I think we've had a couple of 40-year-old people as well. But usually it's about everyone's middle like early 20s, late teens. So.
Okay, thank you. One more question about housing. How hard is to get a studio apartment with host and AYY? Should we set our expectations to only have shared?
No, you don't need to only have expectations for shared places. Obviously, it is easier to get the shared places. But for instance, I applied. My friend applied 6 months before, and he got an offer like this for a studio apartment by himself, and then he changed very quickly afterwards to a different studio apartment to be closer to our friend group in Helsinki, and he got it like this. So it very much depends on how many people want the studio apartments and how many people want the shared apartments. So it does change, and it does change according to the time of year. So apply as soon as possible, and then your chances go up. But I can't promise anything, but it is possible to get your own ones. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. And as I can see, the last question for today: can you study Finnish for foreigners as an elective and make the credits count towards the degree?
I can answer that, for example. Yes, you absolutely can. There's like a set of Finnish language courses in Otaniemi, at least. So if you're applying for Econ, this is applicable to you, and it's meant for people who are foreign studiers of Finnish. And yes, these credits can count towards your degree. I think it's at least in my degree, you need roughly 12 credits worth of language credits. So you could make these Finnish for foreigner courses as your language credits.
Yep, and in Mikkeli it's the same. You actually have to take some language course. You have to take a Finnish course, no matter if you are a Finnish speaker or a non-Finnish speaker. There are a couple of exceptions, like me, where I'm like not good enough for the native language, but I'm not like a beginner enough for the like Finnish as a foreigners. So some people get off, but you do actually have to study Finnish if you come to Mikkeli, and then you have to choose either French, Spanish, or German as well on top of that to learn a language.
Okay, I should check. Do we have some more questions? I don't think so.
Someone asked about, I'm from Australia and I would like to study business in Finland, and I would like to start a degree. And yes, there is scholarships that you can apply for in Mikkeli. You have to visit the website. I don't know exactly how to do it, but I know that there is definitely scholarships that you can apply for. And in Mikkeli, at least, there is a 50% scholarship and 100% scholarship that you can apply for. I guess.
It's again best to check on Friday, or maybe send an email to admission services just to be sure. That's the reason we haven't answered actually this question before. No, it's fine. But yeah, just to be sure, you should check with the admission services about this one. So yes.
Someone had a question: how many hours per week do the lectures take at the Econ Bachelor? I could quickly answer that.
Okay, great.
So I would say you have roughly 2 lectures worth of Econ every week, and each lecture is 2 hours long. And then you could have 1 exercise session, which is when you go through the coursework together with a teacher assistant, and that takes either 1 to 2 hours. So now, depending on how many of these courses you have in a period, you could have more or less hours per week. But I would say in like standard, you have 2 Econ courses per period.
Okay, so guys, do you have any more questions? Feel free to ask, because we are about to end this webinar.
I would
So-
love to know, just as a personal interest, could everyone raise your hand if you're interested in one of these courses after you've heard more information about them? Awesome.
Oh, cool. 4 or 5.
And Christian, you can also apply to the international business. I would highly recommend it, but you don't have to, of course. But best decision everyone's made that I've talked to, at least, who comes to Mikkeli. So yeah.
Okay, so that's pretty much it for today. For some reason, my slideshow is not working properly. Okay, so what's next? Well, we would suggest you to be in contact with us and remember to apply for Aalto University. If you have any additional questions, I will say once more, you can join the webinar this Friday or send an email to admissions@aalto.fi. And if you have some more questions about studying in Aalto, please feel free to contact the Aalto Squad members on Unibuddy. You can find Labiba there for sure, so they can ask your questions regarding the student life. Really soon, we will also have these coffee with the squad sessions. So follow everything on like Aalto's Instagram page or maybe aalto.fi/studies website. Be sure to follow the latest news and upcoming events. That can be really helpful for you. I want to thank you, Labiba and Natalie, for today's webinar and conversation. I really enjoyed talking to you. And I want to thank every participants that were here for the whole time. I hope that you find some useful information. So yes, that's it pretty much for today. My slideshow is not working again. Sorry.
And just as a side note, if you have some questions about Mikkeli specifically, then feel free to add me on LinkedIn, and I can definitely answer some questions for you guys.
Oh, okay, thank you, Natalie. Thank you everyone for joining, and hope to see you on campus during next academic year. Good luck with your applications. Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Thanks, guys.